Hi, this is Ray Horner, and welcome to another edition of Bases and Balls with our good friend Jim Rosenhaus, brought to you by Jennings Heating and Cooling. And I guess, Rosie, let's go first of all to the Wednesday night contest. No hitter against our offense, and this is Carlos Rodon, who was just terrific for the White Sox. What'd you think of that contest?
Just tremendous, Ray, and tremendous for Carlos Rodon. I mean, he was just outstanding from the get-go, and I think the Indians. It's no secret that there's going to be nights where they struggle offensively, and really this entire series so far with the White Sox, they've had a tough time. And then you combo that with a pitcher who was on the top of his game last night, and the results speak for themselves.
Speaking of pitchers on the top of their game, how about the performance by Shane Bieber again the other night, Rosie? Just terrific and put his name in some record books in Major League Baseball history.
Yeah, the strikeout numbers that he's putting up are just incredible. And when you put him in names like Nolan Ryan, I mean, he's in that company. I mean, you think of Nolan Ryan as a big strikeout pitcher, and Shane Bieber has become that. But I think what was most impressive about that night, it's not necessarily the strikeouts, but getting deep into the game. And that's been a point of emphasis for him. He did it last year. Really, everybody on that starting rotation, that's what they try and do. And he took it to that next level and pitched the full 9 the other night. And I think if you had asked him to come out and do the 10th, he would have done that too. But, they want to be careful with him. But, he was economical. Roberto Perez kind of mentioned after the game, he said, we're not worried about strikeouts if chasing strikeouts means that you don't pitch as deep into the game. He'd rather see him put the ball in play a little bit more. But he was able to do both the other night, and that was pretty special.
Rosa, get into Bieber a little bit. I mean, he has really turned it on now going into this third year of almost being an unhittable. From a baseball perspective, what makes him so special?
Well, he doesn't, he's not satisfied with what he did yesterday. What he did on Tuesday, he's flushed that already and is trying to figure out how he's going to win in his next start. I think he comes up on Sunday against the Reds. So he's already on to the next thing. And I think the best example of that was he wins the Cy Young Award last year, has one of the most dominant seasons in Indians history for a pitcher. And yet he spends most of his offseason trying to refine his slider as another pitch and another weapon. And the reason he did that is because he was not happy with his last start of the year, which was the playoff start against the Yankees. He said, look, they were on me. They had me figured out. I have to figure out a way to counteract that. And that's what he spent his offseason doing. So while it was really frustrating, I'm sure, for him to have that outing against New York, in the long run, that postseason tough outing may really cement him as an even better pitcher than he already was.
Another edition of Bases and Balls with Jim Rosenhaus, brought to you by Jennings Heating and Cooling. Rosie, let's talk a little bit about this team. The strengths we can go on, pitching, and of course, defense. We need to pick the ball. We've got basically a brand new outfield this year for the Indians and a couple of new guys in the infield. So first of all, take us to the outfield defense right now. How has it been? And I know we're only a couple of weeks in, but maybe look at the outfield for us.
Probably hard to judge at this point. You look at some other outfields, and there's probably more big play capability than what the Indians have right now, and that's just based on track record and what you see out there athletically. I think they'll catch the ball when they can get to it, but I think we've seen Josh Naylor in right field with some routes and going back on the ball near the wall, maybe not as comfortable as someone who has spent their career out there. Eddie Rosario's made all the plays so far. The Twins were saying, that sometimes it's going to be a challenge out there, but he's done fine out there. And actually, the center field scenario has worked out okay. There haven't been any misplays out there yet. So, let's probably have to reserve judgment on that for at least a month, to see how it goes, because there really haven't been, I think, situations where they've made plays that have been costly for their pitching staff.
First base and shortstop as well. New players there defensively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and look, Chang had the error the other night that proved to lead to the game-winning run. But what's been really encouraging with him, that the ability to dig balls out of the dirt. He's got good hands, so that part of it's fine. It's just the game situations that he hasn't been in at first base and making decisions. Like he had to make a split-second decision the other night that, if he could go back and do it again, he'd make the other decision that would have been more prudent. But that only comes with experience, so he's getting there. And shortstop's fine. Jimenez has been terrific defensively. Rosario's been okay there too. He's not as good defensively as Jimenez, but he hasn't hurt them yet. So I think it's been fine so far.
Jim Rosenhaus with us, bases and balls on WAKR. Rosey, let's go to the bullpen. Man, they've been terrific so far. Maybe a hiccup or two, but when you talk about Karinchak, Clase, Shaw, we can go Whitgren right on down the line. This right now, we stay healthy, looks to be the strength as well as the starting pitching of this baseball team.
Yeah, it's exciting when you can go to a pitcher who comes in throwing 100 miles an hour. I mean, with Emmanuel Clase, that's pretty exciting. And Karinchak is not that far off of that with his stuff. So you have two big arms at the back. Then you have your savvy veterans in Whitgren and Shaw, and Shaw's actually been throwing upper 90s too, which is nice to see. So there's some good stuff happening, and even in the game on Wednesday night, Plesac gave up the 6 runs, and the pen held the White Sox down the rest of the night for the most part. So that was encouraging because they saved other arms. The pitchers who worked on Wednesday night pitched long enough where Tito didn't have to go deeper into his pen and maybe have to make a move to the minor leagues to bring in reinforcements for today. So some good stuff happening in the bullpen. And it's amazing whether they're hard throwers like they have this year or maybe not as hard throwing as they had a year ago. Somehow, some way, Terry Francona mixes and matches and gets the most out of his bullpen.
Finally today, Rosey, you and I talked a lot about this in the month of March, how our division was going to be much more challenging maybe than we've seen in the last decade to 15 years. And it has been just that. I mean, the Royals off to a nice start. We thought the White Sox would be there. And here's Minnesota still right there. And then Detroit, every time I'm reading scores, they're kept picking up another win. And then, of course, we know that our Indians are going to be there each and every game. This division is up the ante a little bit with talent.
Yeah, it most definitely has. And that's fun. It's exciting. This series with the White Sox has been really exciting. The intensity of the first 2 games was just off the charts. And then when you have a no-hitter going like last night, it obviously is quite a game too. It's fun. And the years that the Indians were just blowing through the division, that was fun too, because the Indians had a good ball club and they were in the World Series for one of those years and a postseason team. But there were not, like, I can remember, I think it was 2018 maybe, where they went through the whole season and there wasn't that one series in the division where you're like, oh man, this is a big series. There just weren't any because they were so much better than everyone else. But that's not the case this year. I mean, here we are in April, and you can't say it's a big series in the grand scheme of things, but it's a series between 2 teams that think they're really good, and they've played like it, and that's been fun.
Rosey, thanks for another visit this week on Bases and Balls, brought to you by Jennings Heating and Cooling, and we'll catch up with you again next week, my friend. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Ray.
Perfect, my friend. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I thought you were playing a highlight or something there at the start.
No, that's okay. It was only a second or 2.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem. I'll hear you this afternoon.
Okay, thanks, Ray. Good to see you, man.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.